Appropriate use. As a student progresses through this new era of technology advancement and the ease of information, the appropriate use of digital information and technology must be assessed and implemented. Technology is the link to the abundance of information found through online databases. Pictures are uploaded, homemade videos are shared, communication is broadened, and all forms of information are available. Digital information has become more prevalent, and as a result, it is important to consider the safe, legal, and ethical uses to avoid inappropriate practices associated with technology. Technology is a useful tool, but only when it is used appropriately. This video is an example of how the internet and education go hand in hand. The positive effect of the integration of technology is that it broadens and enhances learning in the modern classroom. Students are engaged when they have devoted substantial time and effort to a task, when they care about the quality of their work, and when they commit themselves because the work seems to have significance beyond its personal instrumental value. The ease of access has put the internet at the fingertips of all students on laptops, smartphones, tablets, and many other devices that keep us connected to each other. Today we use social networking, messengers, and search engines like Google that connect us to a world of information as well as with each other. So we must ask, what happens when the internet isn't just for education anymore? Anyone who has watched the news has heard about cyberbullying and the traumatizing effect it has on students. There's also an issue with the texting and now sexting. As educators, we must step in and stand up against these issues for our students. There's also the problem of students taking work off the internet and defeating the point of the learning process. Plagiarism, the act of taking one's work or ideas and passing them off as their own. So we must ask ourselves, how can we educate students about safe, legal, and ethical use of digital technology and information? As teachers, we can be heroes. We can be well educated in internet safety and use so that we can educate the students that come to us to learn. The first step is safety. We need to acknowledge the need for online safety, implement a school-wide policy, reinforce the policy through online safety curriculum, and have students sign a pledge of online conduct. This will set clear guidelines for appropriate use and diminish the risky behaviors within the educational world. By implementing a student use policy and having students sign a usage pledge, students will be informed on topics such as blind trust and bullying and be aware of appropriate use online. And if you need one more reason to implement online safety curriculum, check out this video.
They had no way of knowing that I, among so many others, would fall victim to a new social disease, internet grooming. We were starry-eyed little girls, dreaming of the perfect friend, of romance, of Prince Charming, but instead meeting the boogeyman in disguise. I walked out my front door, between dinner and dessert, on the coldest, darkest, iciest night of the year, to meet a madman who I thought was my friend. And to this day, I cannot tell you why I was so vulnerable. It's been years since my abduction, and I'm still trying to solve that piece of the puzzle. Intense trauma leaves victims with a huge hole inside of them, which they could fill with drugs, alcohol, or promiscuity. Or with guidance, we can fill it with faith, goals, hard work, and a commitment to personal excellence.
Kirk Bailey, a cybersecurity colleague, best describes the need for internet safety by stating, "If the internet were a street, knowing what I know, I would not walk it in daylight." Bailey expresses the dangers of the internet and the threat of the unknown. In the informational age, where social networking is the norm and phones are connected to the web, students must be taught what is right and what is wrong in reference to posting personal information, as well as information about others. The information age poses new threats of cyberbullying, inappropriate socialization, and numerous other risks because of the intercommunication that happens online amongst our cyber neighbors. Safe practices can be addressed through online safety curriculum in the classroom. This curriculum teaches students about the vulnerability experienced online, as well as how to avoid risky behavior and how to self-monitor online behavior. The curriculum should address privacy settings, dangerous behavior, and other regulations that promote the safe use of technology. Additionally, as educators, we are responsible for monitoring safe practices and troubleshooting issues that may jeopardize the safety of the students on a continuous basis. Here are some additional resources to find information on safety and the internet. At ncpc.org, internetsafety.com, teachersfirst.com, and connectsafely.com. What about the legal issues? The negative effect. Digital information technology allows students to duplicate work that is not their own, creating major problems in the educational world. This creates legalities such as plagiarism and copyright violations when students start stealing information and using it as their own, putting their name on it and breaking the laws. It is appropriate to use some material for educational purposes as long as the copies are not used for profit or for distribution. In this copy and paste generation, where creators' works are being stolen, it is important to educate students that it is a big deal and that it is no different than cheating on a test or stealing anything else. So what do we do as educators? The first thing we must do is educate students. Enforcing copyright laws and a strict policy for violators are also essential. Once these three tasks are in order, we will be better prepared to battle the legalities of digital use. There are discrepancies too. It is important to give credit where credit is due and to do it according to copyright standards. Copyright laws go into more detail and are questioned by educational researchers who debate whether the laws discourage online theft or are taking away from the more important impact of online information educating students. Patrick Ross argues that the copyright laws are working to protect creators and emphasizes the need to enforce the strict laws to decrease theft of creative works online. Ross compares the use of digital information without permission to stealing merchandise. If the creative work of others is stolen online, there's a chance that less content will be shared and education will inevitably suffer due to outdated content. It is important for the rights system to be protected in order for diverse culture and creative works to continue to grow. In opposition, Lawrence Lessig discussed his take on the copyright law being too extreme and that students today are being rendered a generational criminal. Though there is a continual discrepancy over appropriate use of content, it is essential for teachers and students to follow copyright laws in good practice to avoid infringement of the law. A creator deserves and is legally protected to receive acknowledgement or permission for what is rightfully their own. Students must be aware of appropriate use and be held accountable. For more information on copyright laws, you can follow these websites: copyrightlaw.com, teachingcopyright.org, copyrightfoundation.org, and plagiarism.org. Beyond safety and legal concerns for digital information is ethical use. In addition to mandating legal use of digital information and technology, it is essential for students to learn ethical practices. The information age has simplified plagiarism by making cutting and pasting a creator's work into another's a click away. It has also created an environment where the anonymity of being online seems to not hold the same ethical standards in the real world. Students are more willing to dismiss their actions from behind the computer screen, even though they are just as unethical as if they were person to person. Ethics must be defined in order to determine what is and what is not ethical when it comes to online behavior. Ernest Kalman suggests that ethical issues arise from the speed of communication, not allowing reflection of one's actions. Online information becomes more vulnerable because of unauthorized ease of access. Property rights of content are questioned, and the ability to authenticate or authorized use of content is lacking. To combat these issues, students must be educated on the importance and responsibility of their ethical behaviors. Kant's imperative can outline 4 major principles of ethical behavior. The principles include ownership, right to privacy, social responsibility, and self-respect. Respect for ownership and right to privacy acknowledges the creator's works as their own and their right not to have it used inappropriately. Digitalized information seems to be there for the taking, but in reality is no different than a physical book. It should be used as intended by the author, and respect for the content should be granted. Additionally, social responsibility and self-respect promote the ethical practice of honesty and truthfulness. When these principles are adopted, ethical practices for digital information and technology are easily understood and practiced. When students are taught to value the information that is provided online and the need to respect the creator, a more ethical approach to using such information can be assumed. The need can be seen in this video here.
For quite a few years, I've been studying ethics in the United States, particularly with regard to the professions and more recently with regard to citizenship. What does it mean to be a good worker? What does it mean to be a good citizen? Not just what are my rights, which we're all very good at expressing, but what are my responsibilities as a teacher or administrator or scholar? What are my responsibilities as a member of a community, whether it's my city or the whole world? And we began to look at the sense of ethics of young Americans, and we found that they all knew what it meant to be ethical. Some of them were, and some of them admired ethics, but many young Americans feel that ethics is a luxury. It's something that they can afford to do when they're wealthy and successful and famous, but in the meantime they want to pass. They want to be allowed to cut corners in order to be able to succeed in the American terrain. And instructively, many young Americans assume that their colleagues, their peers, are not being ethical, and if they were to be ethical, if they were to...
So as modern technology increases, it becomes more apparent that disciplining online behavior is essential to use. Social media and networking poses potential threat, while the archive of data online makes usage a legal issue. There is responsibility that comes with the use of digital information technology. Because of the anonymity and unclear standards, a safe, legal, and ethical use can be easily overlooked, which makes educating students and upholding appropriate use mandatory for educators. Just as children are taught how to safely walk across the street or to treat others with respect, students must be taught appropriate online conduct. Appropriate use includes not participating in risky behaviors, using sources correctly, and respecting themselves as well as others online. Educators are responsible for being informed and informing students so that online risks decrease and appropriate use is increased in the educational setting. By incorporating digital citizenship into the curriculum, students are able to become responsible users of technology. Similar to other citizenship programs, digital citizenship emphasizes the same good judgment and responsibility that is expected offline as online. The integration of digital information and technology is designed to enhance learning and can succeed in doing so if and only if it is first taught to be used appropriately. Students can be empowered to make good judgment in the digital world and place value on digital material with the encouragement of educators. Basing education on grade level and appropriate content will lead students to appropriate use throughout their education and beyond. My additional resources that I've used are here, and they are outlined by the photo names and, the photo slides and the additional other sources used for the information provided in this presentation. Thank you so much.